Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Out and about today on a very cold winter's day on another bike review. Today I'm on the Ducati XDiavel. It's a bike I've been wanting to ride ever since it came out back in 2016. A big old bruising cruiser machine. A little bit unusual, a little bit different for me. And if you're interested in this bike, stick around, stay tuned. I'll tell you what I think of it. So the XDiavel then, something a little bit different. I don't often ride cruiser style bikes, and when the XDiavel came out, well in fact when the Diavel came out originally, it was a little bit surprising that Ducati, a company that's famed for their sports bike prowess, was getting into the cruiser market, and it brought out the original Diavel, which is an amazing looking bike, which I have ridden some years back now. It's about 4 or 5 years ago. I rented one when I was out in the US, and I made some videos on that bike. I'll stick a link in the corner if you're interested in the standard Diavel to those videos. And then this bike came out, as I say, I think about 2016 it broke cover. It's a sort of a slightly sleeker looking version of the Diavel, again very much the feet forward cruiser style bike. But when you're actually on the machine, it feels very much like I remember the Diavel. It's got this big wide fuel tank, big wide handlebars, feet forward position. Makes you feel very cool to be on it. Very much a Ducati though. It's very much a emphasis is on sporty riding rather than cruising, with this massive 150 plus bhp engine on board, and it's got this massive rear tyre as well. And you'd think that it wouldn't handle, but actually around these lanes here just near Silverstone, where I've just picked the bike up from Ducati UK, handles remarkably well actually. A little bit slippery out on the road today, as you can see. It's damp under tyre, so I'm not going to be absolutely thrashing it, he says, coming onto this straight here. It's just begging for the bike to be opened up. Let's do that. Yeah, it gives you a real shove in the back when you open her up. Okay, let's not go really mad, but yeah, we've established it's a fast motorcycle. Brilliant, and everything about it, again, even though it's not a Ducati sports bike, screams Ducati. It's got the L-twin engine, it's got that familiar Ducati sound to it when you open her up. So yeah, it's got the essential elements of Ducati exoticness. It looks amazing, sounds amazing, and it goes like a stink. But that pretty much is all it shares in common with its sports bikes brothers, because, as I say, very different in terms of what you expect from a Ducati sports bike. So let's go through the practical items, the things that if I were going to buy one of these, what would I look for? So first off, riding position and comfort. Well, we already said feet forward riding position, feet way out in front, or so it seems to me. They're not stupidly far out in front, but it's very different to having your feet tucked up underneath you, and takes some getting used to. That said, I've only been riding the bike about a quarter of an hour, and I'm not struggling at all with this seating position. I thought it would be more difficult to get used to than it is. But so feet forward, you are sitting upright, and as I say, big wide handlebars. It's a very comfortable position to be in. One stopped here, look, feet flat on the deck, very low seat height on here. I'm only 5'8", but it's not an unwieldy bike at all to be riding. Very wide handlebars, and my knees are at an obtuse angle. Not often I get to say that on a bike ride. Not tucked up at all, but it is a comfortable place to be. The seat is one of those ones that sort of cups your backside. It's very much a single rider's seat, so you're not going to move around on it. You are in this one position, but luckily that one position is comfortable. Interesting number plate on this Merc in front of me. I hope you can see it's a bit of a murky old day. So this little town that I'm in here is Buckingham. Lovely little spot. Every time I go to put my feet on the pegs, I stick my feet in the traditional position, and then remember I've got to put my feet forward. So having said I've got used to it, I've got used to it when they're on the pegs, but finding the pegs is always a voyage of discovery, at least it is so far. But yeah, comfortable riding position. Other practical points, mirrors. They look nice. I like the style of these. And they're nice and big, great view behind, no vibration, they work a treat. Quick check behind, nothing straight behind me. Well, the brakes on here are amazing. This particular machine, this is the standard XDiavel. It's got a slightly more expensive brother, the S version, that has the Brembo M50s on it. This one has the Brembo M42s, so slightly less spec brakes, but they work really, really well. Well, certainly the fronts do. Let's just try the rear brake. Yeah, rear brake works pretty well actually. And in town here, bike's really nice. Loads of torque as you'd expect. Hello, sir. But riding it, you know, just 30 miles an hour here in third gear, no complaints. Fueling seems quite nice. There's no jerkiness like you might expect. In fact, it likes slow speed riding much better than, say, my my little Panigale 899 that I have. Doesn't like riding slow at all, but this is absolutely fine in town. Clutch is quite stiff on here, but not terribly so. These wide handlebars take some getting used to. You have to, it feels like you're doing massive turns to get around the corners. But that's just the nature of the bike. Oh, lots of white vans out today. Right, I need to try and lose some of this traffic when I get the chance. So yeah, the handling on this is nice actually. I thought it might feel a bit ponderous, but actually it doesn't feel like it wants to fall into the corners or anything like that. You do have to be quite positive about steering it round. One thing that does strike me about the bike, having just jumped on it, is that it is a little bit vibey actually. Well, it is a big old thumping L-twin, as I say, but it pretty much all the rev ranges so far that I've ridden it in, I'm very conscious of the vibrations on the bike. Now I'm used to riding the next comparable bike that I own is my Triumph Speed Twin, which is a big twin cylinder bike with 1200cc engine, and that engine on there is a lot smoother than this. So you could put that down to character on the Ducati, but personally I'd rather it was smoother. Gearbox is lovely on here. Very easy to change gear. I haven't had any issues with false neutrals or anything like that. It's what I would call snickable. In terms of wind protection on the bike, well, it's got this massive frontal area on here, so the lower half of my body is nice and protected against the wind actually. But obviously it being a naked bike, there's no protection up top, so you're getting the full wind blast, but you expect that on a bike of this type. And there's not much here at all. I mean, everything is low down. I can't see the headlight or anything. It sort of disappears away. So there is no protection for the upper half of you, but you'd expect that, as I say. Suspension on here feels nice. I would say it's, I haven't used this term for a while, but it's just in the Goldilocks zone. It's not too firm, and it's not too soft. It's not all lollopy as you might expect on a cruiser. It's quite firm, this suspension. But I guess that's that helps with the handling and makes it so nice. Okay, this is a nice cruisy type road with some nice open bends. Perfect for this sort of bike. One thing I would say for this riding position, although it's not a position I'm used to with the feet forward, it does make you feel cool. And one of my measures of what makes the bike good or not is how it makes you feel, and there's no doubt this bike makes you feel good. In a moment I'll stop and I'll show you around the bike and talk you through the spec in the usual way. Just before we do that, I guess a word about the switch gear and so on here. It's actually a relatively... Whoops, missed a gear there. I haven't said I haven't missed a gear, I just did then. It's a relatively straightforward bike. It's fairly simple. It's not encumbered by all sorts of complexity on the handlebars. It does have cruise control here, which is very easy to use. It's just a straightforward set, and then you can move her up or down. It doesn't have heated grips on this particular bike. It does have riding modes, and I'm in the touring riding mode at the moment, just because it is a little bit slippery. I thought I'd do that rather than being sport. But the switch gear is nice and easy to use. It is the PCB type, so you're pressing buttons onto printed circuit boards, but it feels quite positive. Yeah, really nice in these corners. I do like what they've done with the TFT screen on here. The display is nice and clear, RPM shown at the top, and then your speed in the middle with a gear position indicator. Proper fuel gauge, I'm glad to see. A clock you've got there as well. Everything you need there. This bike is quite feature rich as far as electronics is concerned. It has launch control on it if you want to experience what all the torque that this has can do for you off the lights. I don't think I'll be trying that out. It's got keyless ignition, so I've got the keys in my pocket. I have to say I've never been a massive fan of keyless ignition. It's sort of one of those things, solution to a problem that never really existed as far as I'm concerned. But if you're a fan of electronics, it's got that. I think the thing that is outstanding to me at the moment, having, you know, as I say, just got on the bike as a first impressions review, is it really is a comfortable position to be in. It's like you're sat on an armchair. The seat is really comfy. Now, whether over time, if you took the bike on a tour, it would actually start to become a little uncomfortable on your back, I'm not sure. I need to ride the bike for a longer period to find that out. And lucky for me, I have got this bike as my next long-term loaner. I'm borrowing this over the Christmas period from Ducati UK, so thank you very much to those guys for letting me borrow the bike for the next 3 weeks. So stick around, stay tuned to the channel if you're interested in this machine. There'll be a lot more videos coming on this bike, and towards the end of the period I will do a lessons learned type review of all the pros and the cons that I've learned over that period. Let's give you a little clean again. The engine sound on the XDiavel is a little bit muted actually. It's got really nice exhaust on this, but they're not very loud, which is a little bit disappointing. I'd like a bike like this to have some real deep sort of rumbling noise about it. It hasn't really got that. It certainly do with being a little bit louder. Looks like there's some diesel on the roads here, never a nice sign when you've got a wet road. So I shall just take it a little bit easy. Okay, what I need to do is find myself a little spot up here somewhere and show you around the bike and talk you through the spec in the usual way. In fact, there might be just such a spot up here for me to do that. Let's pull into this lay-by and show you around. Okay, I think this is as good a spot as any. Let's stick her here and show you around the bike. So it's just find neutral. Come on, how easy is that going to be? There we go, not too bad. And the stand, massive chunky stand, no problem. Right, turning this off, I think it's a matter of hitting that, there we go. And I think actually turning the bike fully off is it that one? Got to get the hang of how you do this. Let's hold that, there we go. And the whole bike, not dies, that's the wrong word, but switches off the ignition basically. I do like these, the brake fluid cover there, looks very nice. And indeed we've got a hydraulic clutch on here as well. And none of those horrible plasticky type fluid containers like you get on some bikes that I won't mention. Alrighty, okie dokie, here she is then. The Ducati XDiavel, this one in this sort of battleship grey, which looks pretty darn cool, I think you would agree. That is that exhaust that I love the look of, but is a bit lacking in the sound department. Amazing back wheel on this massive section tyre on here, but incredible that it handles really nicely. Anyway, let me get the other camera out in the usual way and I'll talk you through the spec. Okie dokie, here we are then, the big old Ducati XDiavel, what a mean looking beast. Hopefully you can see that all right on the phone camera. Actually, I think this grey colour really does it a lot of favours, absolute beauty. Alright, let's start off with the spec then in the usual way, so let's go with the engine then. 1262cc L-twin, the Interceptor with DVT, that's the Ducati Desmodromic variable timing, the valve timing stuff, puts out 156 brake horsepower at 9,500 RPM and 93 foot-pounds of torque. So it's all about the torque on this. That's 126 newton meters of torque at 5,000 RPM, and it's belt drive. Let's show you that massive belt drive in keeping with its sort of cruiser characteristics. And I don't know why more bikes don't have belts. Actually, no chain maintenance to worry about. Single-sided swing arm as well, so you get this amazing back wheel. It's all about this back wheel as far as I'm concerned. It looks, I can look at that all day. On the S version, it's got an even more blingy back wheel, but I think the rear view of this bike is just really muscular and splendid. Alright, back to the specs anyway, so I'll get carried away. Brakes, as I mentioned, this is the standard bike, so it's got the Brembo M42s on this, 4-pot calipers. On the S version it's got the slightly better M50s, but these are still amazing. 2 discs, as you can see, twin discs. The front wire at the front end, the suspension, massive great 50mm forks on here. These are Marzocchi forks, 50mm stanchions, as I say. Adjustable on the front for compression and rebound. It's got that clever thing where one fork does one and one does the other. We can see the adjusters on the top here, so that looks like R for rebound on that side, and compression over on that side as well. Alrighty, seat height on here, I've already said it's nice and low. It's actually 755mm, so no problem getting your feet down, even if you're a shorty like me. Weight wise, 247 kilograms wet, so not hugely heavy for a cruiser. I mean, it's still a fairly weighty old bike, but it's not, you know, some cruisers are really heavy. 18 litre tank on here. It looks massive, the tank, and it holds 18 litres, which is a, you know, practical amount. Electronics, riding modes, of course, 8-level traction control, 3-level Bosch cornering ABS, launch control, as I mentioned, keyless ignition, LED lighting on here, and that TFT display, so it's absolutely full of electronics. Price of this, on the according to the website, $20,495. Yeah, an expensive bike for sure. What else can I tell you about it? Slipper clutch, comes with Pirelli Diablo Rosso 2 tyres by the looks of it on this one. Massive rear tyre, incredible. It's got a Bluetooth module, infotainment system, and if you don't like the whole feet forward thing, you can get a kit that moves these pegs to a more mid position, which I think is what I would go for if I went for this bike, because I just, as I say, just find that whole feet forward thing a little bit odd. What else can I tell you about it? I suppose competitor wise, its obvious competitor these days are things like the Triumph Rocket 3, which I'm yet to ride but hope to soon. It'll be really interesting to see how this compares to the Rocket 3. Of course, it's a very similar price and a similar sort of riding style and muscle bike. Alrighty, that's it for the spec. I need to jump on it and ride her some more. Certainly one of those bikes that if you had and you left her in the garage, you'd have to keep looking back at it. It's an absolutely stunning looking bike, and yeah, nice. Alright, let's try and remember how this keyless works. Now, the transponder for the keyless is underneath me in the seat. I think what we've got to do here is bring her to life with that button. Is that going to work? Let's hold it. Come on, come to life. You know you want to. Perhaps it's that one. Oh yeah, there we go. So the bottom button brings it all to life. Looks beautiful. Really nice, this display on here. And then fire her up. It's got that classic Ducati starter on it. We never quite know whether it's going to want to start or not. Let's let this truck go past. Right. Super slippy around here. Let's not drop this £20,000 bike. Yeah, it's actually very easy to ride, actually, for a bike with such humongous power and its kind of brutal looks and so on. You might be a little bit, you know, intimidated by it, but actually very easy to ride. Helped hugely by that low seat height, which is brilliant. Right, we're off. Very slippery on these roads, got to be careful today. So yeah, so I'm really looking forward to getting to know this bike, as I say, over the next few weeks. So if you are interested in the XDiavel, stick around to the channel, and I shall ride this as much as I possibly can and try and identify all the pros and cons, see how I get on with it. Alright, if this is the first video of mine you've seen, thank you very much indeed for watching. I don't just do bike reviews here on the Missenden Flyer, but I do bits and pieces in the garage about how to look after your bike. I do trips and tours at home and abroad. I do monthly bike news, the odd live stream, basically anything and everything to do with motorcycles. I try and cover it here on the Missenden Flyer. If you haven't done so already, it'd be fantastic if you'd hit that subscribe button below, and that way I can see you on the next video. Alrighty, that's it for now. Hope you've enjoyed that. Look forward to speaking to you again soon. Until then, this has been the Missenden Flyer. Cheerio. Yeah! This is a brute if you want it to be. A brute and a hoot. Oh, this thing handles just way better than it has any right to. Brilliant.